Welcome to another episode of The Shift with Elena Agar. In this episode, I talk with Katelyn Magnuson. She is the founder of a company called the Freelance CFO. So what they do is they offer this full-service accounting firm that specializes in really empowering entrepreneurs and small businesses to achieve financial success. And so I found it super interesting because she has built this company from scratch, essentially. She comes from that finance background, and she just decided to start this company, and she's done so successfully, and they're growing, and she was just telling me this reach where they're completely balanced as a team and really just looking to continue to offer that quality service and just further knowledge sharing to their clients. And what I find interesting in this episode when we talked is just some of the biggest misconceptions we think when it comes to finances, and just how we don't really plan accordingly our finances, and myself included. I mean, I'm guilty of that. And how businesses can really kind of utilize these services. And if you are an entrepreneur, how can you start your own company as well? And where can Freelance CFO and companies such as hers can really help you grow and scale as a business in a way that makes sense to you. So I found her super inspiring. She's full of energy. She knows her stuff. She knows what she's talking about. If you're interested in starting your own company, if you're interested in any kind of CFO services, if you're interested in any kind of knowledge around financial literacy, this episode is definitely for you. Highly recommend. Follow her on her social media as well. She has a really booming TikTok that she puts a lot of great content out there, and I think you're just going to love her energy. Enjoy the episode. Katelyn, welcome to the Shift podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm very excited to talk to you about a topic that has been very painful for me for many, many years because of the culture and I grew up in Russia, where we live for today. We do not think about tomorrow. We do not think about money or financial health or financial well-being. So it's an important topic. So tell me a little bit more about how did you become the freelance CFO, and what prompted you to go into helping businesses with their finances and accounting stuff?
We can go really far back and we can go medium far back. So I'll give the quick long-term recap. But essentially in middle school, we're going to go back that far, I was really fantastic at math. And I ended up being bused to the high school after a lot of advocating and fighting and dealing with a school counselor that was more concerned about the boys' reaction to having someone there than actually making sure my education was prioritized. So ended up being bused to the high school, and my parents had no idea what to do with me at times. Highly motivated, super down to learn, but also was bored really easily. And so they weren't sure if I was going to end up in jail or if I was going to end up being, a successful entrepreneur or a lawyer or salesperson. And so I've always had this aptitude for math and for community. And I did varsity sports, was really involved in that world, and ended up being tapped on the shoulder by someone when I was working a job at a sports club. Actually, I was a lifeguard swim instructor. And this woman that I thought was absolutely off her rocker, she would come in and she would, dog paddle. And she always kept her hair dry. She was an older woman, and it was because she got her hair done. And so she'd keep her hair dry and paddle along, and she'd just say, hey, I have this business. I have this business. I have this business. I think you'd be really great. I'd love for you to come work for me. I was like, this feels like a scam. It wasn't a scam. She ran a successful small business out of the bottom of her home. And it was bra pads, swimsuit pads, resort wear. And I ended up coming in and being basically mentored by someone that had worked at Speedo and Carter's in their financial department. And that's where I got that first taste of working with small businesses and doing all of being able to make a difference, right? You're not just in corporate and you're another cog in the machine, which I bounced back and forth between corporate and my own thing for years until about the last 4 years. And I got to make a difference. I got to do the bookkeeping, the planning, the month end close, and I got to use all of those numbers that I was so great with to actually make a difference. And that was the first time that I'd really been able to experience that in play. So I worked there all through college, and then I jumped into the corporate world, which was one of many dips into the job hopping and figuring out what that looked like and learning a lot. My parents had no idea. They were like, you're changing jobs. You're not going to be employable. What are you doing with your life? Which was ironic because my dad's been an electrician, which if you know anything about electrical work, you frequently will take a job, and then if you don't like it, you'll leave and you'll go back out and get another job the next day. So I've seen this my whole childhood, and then him being like, what are you doing? Because apparently he thought it was different in corporate, which I have thoughts about. about. But
Mm.
I essentially job hopped from 22 until 27 and increased my income threefold during that time frame. Had this huge skill set. I had sales tax knowledge, I had workers comp, payroll knowledge. I worked with a lot of lawyers doing like legal research on like in regards to sales tax and how things are taxed, and hated the majority of it. Not the learning, that was always great, but all of this jumping around and all of this, like, I wasn't making a big difference. I was
Mm.
replaceable, and egotistically or selfishly, I don't want to be replaceable to an extent. And ended up going through the sale and acquisition of a company that I was working for, a small business that I jumped back into in 2013, and they sold in 2015. And I had thought that I was going to be with this company for the foreseeable future. I loved working
Mm.
with them because I got to again do the month end close, production planning, and make a difference, and ended up unemployed when she chose to sell the business. And the Oregon Department of Revenue sent me this lovely letter. I was 25, and they sent me this letter basically saying, hey, with how much you're making and the industry that you're in and the job market, we don't think you're going to find another job in your field. You should start your own business. And if you do, we'll give you 6 months of unemployment, no questions, while you get that up and running. I'm the primary earner in my family. I'm 25. I'm unemployed for the first time. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? So I definitely had a couple of weeks of heavy margarita drinking and coping and figuring out what unemployed life looked. Thank God it was during the summer. So it was, I don't know, being unemployed in the winter sounds way worse.
Yeah.
And was able to basically start my business. I'd already been doing some contracting and some freelancing on the side and helping small businesses. And this was sort of the first iteration of that. And it was Pacific Crest Apparel Resources, which then transitioned into Left Brain Results, which then transitioned into the company that we know now, the Freelance CFO. And I ended up essentially starting in the apparel realm because that's where I'd been working a lot in, and figuring out that I didn't want to just do that, that there were so many other small businesses. And ironically, I ended up working with a couple of photographers. Photographers are a very referral based industry. And so what was three became 120 over the last 8 years, which has been fantastic. I mean, I never intended that to be the case. And we now work with like tech startups and graphic designers and money coaches and consultants and some really, really cool businesses. But I have been able to build something pre-pandemic that was able to pivot. Pivot was the quintessential word of the pandemic, right? But I was able to pivot because we were already set up to be remote. I travel a lot. I
Mm.
wanted a business that was location independent. And that meant that while a lot of other accounting firms were scrambling during the pandemic to figure out how do you go remote? How do you have everything be secure? How do you work with clients that way? We were already there and ready to continue growing. And so that's when we ended up bringing on a pretty robust team. And we're now up to 11 team members, which has just been an adventure I never planned on.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love it. I love every part of that story. It's so authentic and like real. And I don't, it's like you're like, well, this happened and this happened. So it's like it's not always as pretty, right? Like as people
Not
think,
at
right?
all.
There's always a struggle in the entrepreneurship. And right now there's so much what's the word? It's so trendy, right? It's so trendy to be an entrepreneur and things like that. So it's kudos to you. Kudos to you. I mean, it's like I said, in preparation to this, I've been doing homework around you, and I love the approach. I love the style. It is very much like I was like, I want to do business, but I want her team to do X, Y, and Z with my business, So it's pretty cool. I do have a question. So,
Mhm.
and also what you're wearing now, you have it seems like there's a theme of these neutral colors, and even all the photos that you team was that on purpose?
So this, because I work for myself, I actually generally live in burgundy, and my husband jokes that it's become my uniform color. So Emily, who is our client experience manager on the team, Emily, she's the tall blonde in all of our pictures.
Mm.
She has been helping us, and she also does all of our photography. She's been helping us update our brand to be a little more reflective. So it's not just the Katelyn show, because it's been the Katelyn show for years. And so, yes, it was very intentional to move into neutrals with some pops. Like I have, a gold shirt
Hmm.
on. And so moving into neutral without being boring, because I feel like it's so
Hmm.
easy to have neutrals just be like, it's the standard. So, yes, it was intentional, but we're intentionally trying to be more inclusive of who our team is as a whole rather than just having the colors that I live in.
Yeah, no, but I actually love it. There's something too, because I picked it up, and I picked it. I was like, oh, this is I don't know what it was, but there's something to it. So for whoever is listening, apparently colors do something to potential customer, because I noticed, I was like, well, that is pretty nice neutral combination they got going on. So it's there's something to it. So it's something positive about it. So
I'll have to tell Emily. She'll
whatever.
be very
So
excited to hear
kudos
that. Yeah.
kudos to your customer success manager. Is that the person? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos to her, because whatever she's doing, it's working. So I'm curious, through your experience over the years, what have you learned about people, working with clients? Like, have you noticed themes around people and how we address finances? Anything that you'd be
Oh,
willing to share?
in the US specifically, the number one, I think, unfounded fear that comes up or anxiety that comes up is I don't want to go to jail. And this week alone, I've heard that 3 times. Keep in mind, we're not dealing with people that are like committing fraud or trying
Yeah.
to do anything like untoward, but that is just this lingering fear when it comes to the IRS and it comes to taxes. They're like, oh no, if I make one misstep, like I'm going to jail. The IRS doesn't want to throw you in jail. They just want to get their money and their
Mm-hmm.
piece of, whatever you've got going on. But there's so much anxiety and stress and misinformation. And yes, the majority of the information that you might want is accessible on Google, but what we found is so many of our clients are like, I don't even know what to look at. I don't know what applies to me. I feel so lost because none of this was taught to me in high school or in university. And it's so frustrating to feel, I'm going to say, kind of inept, right? Or like you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing when you're running a business. And so you're great at all of these things. And then you have this piece that's just sitting here causing anxiety. So
Mm,
we see that a lot in terms of business finances, but also with personal finances. What does my credit score mean? How am I supposed to be responsibly using credit or debt? Like, how am I leveraging that? What am I doing? And I think one of the things that comes up the most that we really want to play to is, am I doing something because society tells me that I should be doing this? Or am I doing this because it's what I want to be doing? And a
mm,
lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with are working towards figuring out what that is in their life. For me, it's having a business that's location independent. It's having flexibility. It's having a business that I would want to work at and hiring team members for positions that I would actually want to do.
mm,
And we're seeing clients, do that in their own variation. And so that's what I'm like the most excited to see with the people that we're working with.
mm. What have you learned about yourself throughout this process of just building this business?
Oh God. So
Top
many
three,
things.
top three.
Okay, top three. Okay, top three. Number one, I would say at least in my case, your gut intuition or your gut feeling is normally right.
Mm,
And getting quiet enough or having few enough external inputs to actually be able to listen to what's going on in your head and your gut is so important, because it has never led me astray, but my brain has absolutely led me astray at times, or I've justified a decision that was not the best case
mm,
scenario for us. You will never stop growing. Just about the time that I think that I'm like, yeah, I've got this down, something comes up, something changes, not necessarily bad. It could
mm-hmm,
be
mm-hmm,
neutral, it could be chaotic, and I have to rehash and work on my own self-development. And that's really the third point here is self-development and self-work are so incredibly important,
mm,
especially when you're taking on a leadership role, because any of my shit that I have going on
mm-hmm.
is absolutely going to trickle down into how the company operates, how our client experience is, what our team experience is. And so I have to be an absolute example of like constantly working to not necessarily improve, but to be self-aware.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the gut feeling one, because I think and it's all connected, right? Like, you have to work on yourself in order to be connected with yourself, in order to really understand how to distinguish a gut feeling versus a fear feeling, right? And
Right.
so many other
Yeah, what's the
things.
difference between them? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
are you excited? Are you fearful? Yeah, all of those really play in and being able to distinguish.
yeah. So since you've set up you set up the business, right? So you're obviously driving the culture, and your team is driving the culture, and as you guys are growing as a team. So what are some of the things you put into place that I guess maybe tend to be against the traditional way of working? Have you done anything? For example, like, I think that that's something I've noticed, you guys work like 4 days a week. Is it that you actually work 4 days a week, or is it just you're like Fridays, like we just don't have meetings on Friday? How did you set that up?
Couple of different things. So we work a Monday through Thursday work week. We work Fridays during busy season or as needed, but Fridays are basically a flex day.
Mhm.
And I trust the team to get through what they need to get through. They're able to use Fridays as needed. We are not, we are probably the opposite of a meeting heavy company. I have a deep and abiding hatred for meetings from my time in corporate when we'd have meetings about meetings that we were going to have and the inefficiencies that that can cause. So we have one monthly team meeting
Wow.
that we hold, and then we have Slack and we have Loom, and we are able, like, we're communicating regularly, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not all taking time unless there's a reason. Like, we might have an
Mm,
additional meeting with 2 or 3 of us because there's something that we're looking to roll out that needs just those people on it, but we're not just calling like an all hands meeting every morning. We all know what needs to get done. We all know what we're doing, and I think that we're allowed or able to continue to have that company culture because we hire intentionally for people that value that. And that's been one of the biggest things that we've done. And I finally figured it out in this last year because we had a couple of employees that weren't good fits that are no longer with the company. And we
mm,
have some employees, all our team now is they're absolutely fantastic. And the biggest change has been that we're looking for people that their identity is not wrapped up in their work.
mm,
We all love what we do. We love the value we provide. We love the clients that we work with, but we have so many interests, hobbies, passions outside of work that we're able to come in and not even necessarily like work hard, play hard, but we have an incentive to leave at the end of the day. We have an incentive to wrap everything up at the end of the day. And that brings a really different energy to the business. The other thing that we do is we have unlimited sick time. We have a pretty generous PTO plan because for me, it's very important. It's use it or lose it. And I know
mm.
that there's like unlimited PTO plans, which I have lots of thoughts about because normally you end up not taking as much
Mm-hmm.
PTO,
Yeah.
but we push really hard for people to take time off. We, offer a retirement plan. We offer health benefits. And so those might be really standard in a corporate environment, but in a small business, there's something that we
Mm-hmm.
can offer to be able to bring that in. And we're also fully remote. So we get together once or twice a year as a team in person. We do all of our pictures. We do very little work other than pictures. That's the biggest day that we all actually do something. But the rest of the time, it's really so that we can get to know one another even better in person so that when we are remote, our company bonds are that much better. And there's such a tangible difference after we've had the retreat and how we all work together than there is, especially when we have new team members and you haven't gotten to
Yeah.
meet them in person and you're not, you haven't had that bond. So those are some of the things that we do to keep the culture, in my opinion, healthy and
Yeah.
different.
One of the things I was laughing at when I was reading, and it comes across in various parts of your website and the social media, it's like, we don't work with assholes. Tell me about that because I love that. I have so much to say, but I love that. Tell
I
me.
actually had that sweatshirt on this morning because I was in my burgundy uniform.
Yeah.
One of our team members, Jill, has a cricket, and she made all of us sweatshirts. I think like a year and a half ago that said that. So it had come about because it's something that I say a lot. I think, when a lot of us get started in business, we take any client that's willing to pay us.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
You're figuring out your niche, you're figuring out what you're doing, you're trying to make ends meet. There's all of these different factors going in. And we had gotten to a point a couple of years ago where we were doing some house cleaning of some clients that weren't a good fit. And frankly, some of them were assholes. And in the process now of like onboarding or vetting clients, we're not assholes. We don't want to work with assholes. There are so many
Mm-hmm.
other people out there. Like, you can go work with your parents' crusty old accountant, and that'll probably be just fine. They might even be an asshole back, and that would be a great fit. But we've put some markers in place, and that was just a reminder for us, but also for a lot of our clients who were like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Like, I don't want some, crusty person that doesn't understand me or like relate to me. Life's too short to work with people that make you miserable. And so that's our like sort of short and to the point reminder of like, we don't work with assholes. We don't work with assholes. We don't work with assholes. We're in a point now where we don't need to take every client that comes on, and that's a really nice place to be able to also foster better relationships with people that want to truly partner with us.
Hmm. Listen, if you ever make that shirt into like a gear or something like that,
We're going to be
okay,
selling it actually this
please let me
quarter. I'm
know.
so excited. I
Because
will.
it's so like, I mean, throw your logo on it, but it's so relevant. Do you know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
So my husband was so embarrassed. I accidentally wore that sweatshirt to the farmer's market a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't realize that I had it on because I have a bunch of different sweatshirts. I basically live in, like athleisure wear and a
Yeah.
sweatshirt most of the year. And I showed up and I had people complimenting me on my shirt. I was like, shit, I wore that one out in public to like a family friendly event. And I was like, it is what it is. I got so many compliments on it. I was shocked. So yes, we are going to be selling it this quarter. I'm very
Great.
excited.
Let me know. I'm gonna keep an eye on our website and let me know. I would wear it everywhere. I love it. So talk to me a little bit about financial literacy. So it's definitely crucial for both, right? Like for individuals, for businesses. What are some, I guess, some basics that are not so basic, but we often miss either as individuals or businesses or both?
Yeah. So on the individual side, I think we make things so much more complicated than they need to be. And I see this happen a lot. And I think there are a lot of parallels between the diet industry and the financial industry, or like the fitness industry and the financial industry, right? We'll see like all of these cycles where, yeah, I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to do this. And you go to the gym and you go twice a day, or you do, like a 75 hard. For most of us, that's not a sustainable long-term plan.
Right.
It's sexy. It's a quick fix. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And you normally end up running out of steam, or you're not consistent, or you don't keep it going afterwards. And it actually, I think, does more damage than it does good, because you end up destroying some of your confidence in your ability to set a goal and follow through with that goal. And so I see that happen a lot on the business and personal finance side, where maybe you have these really big financial goals and you're like, you know what? I'm going to finally start contributing to retirement. I'm going to do $500 a month. Like you do the math, you're going to max out your Roth IRA. You're super stoked. It's so easy, and I see it happen so often where then you fail that goal, right? You're setting money aside, you're putting that $500 aside. If you haven't been doing something and you haven't been already saving or paying off debt or doing something where that $500 is missing from your finances, generally that's too big of a course correction. You're
Mm,
going to end up backsliding because, oh, I actually needed that $500. Like if you don't have money just accumulating, you're using that $500. Even if you've laid a budget out, like if it's not sitting there, it's been going somewhere else. So instead, starting small. It's not sexy, but it's consistent. So instead of
mm,
$500, it might be 25 or $50 that you start with. You're doing something that's so small that you're not going to miss it. It's a dinner out, it's a coffee shop brunch, and then 3 months from now, when you've gotten used to it, you're gonna maybe bump it again,
mhm,
and you're gonna bump it again, and I did that myself over the course of, like, 5 years to get up to where I wanted to be. Is it slower than I wanted? Yes. Did I backslide at all? No. Had I
mm,
backslid in the past, every time I'd tried to just
mm,
jump full force into it, and so I think that that's the biggest sort of common sense thing that isn't so common, right? We need to make it simpler, and we need to also not try and tackle everything, because you'll go like, I
mm,
want to do retirement, I want to pay off debt, I want to save for travel, I want to, save for a house. Pick two things that are your priority right now at the
mm,
most. Start there, build the habits, give it time to become a routine, and then add something else in, instead of just trying to do too much all at once. And on the business side, the biggest thing that I see happen with a lot of sole proprietors or single member LLCs is they're not treating their business as a business. They're treating it as an extension of their personal finances. And while there's
mm,
nothing illegal about that from, an IRS or even a legal standpoint, it makes it really difficult to tell how profitable your business is. And so we'll work with people sometimes and we're like, hey, do you know what your profit is? Do you know what you make per month? And they're like, I don't know, I have money in my bank account, like I'm paying my bills. But we've had people try and get rid of services that were highly profitable, get rid of products that were super profitable because they felt like they were stale. If you go look at the numbers, in these cases, they were actually like their top selling product, their highest profit margin. And they were making decisions that were not informed because they didn't have designated business finances. And so
mm,
that's one of the biggest things, is to have them separated. And it's as simple as opening one business account if you need to.
mhm,
Everything runs through that. You pay yourself out of there, but you can see, and it also has the added benefit as if you look to outsource to someone at the end of the year for your bookkeeping or for your accounting or for your taxes, you're not having to pull business transactions. I had this happen once from 12 different accounts.
mhm.
I had someone that had to go through and highlight all of her business transactions. Did she probably miss some? Most
Yeah.
likely. Then you're missing deductions as well. So that's one of the biggest things that I see happening, that is just, it's so easy to correct, but so commonly missed on the business side.
Yeah, I did that before as well. And this time around with this business now, it's like I had a business before and it was all like I was I was like the individual, it was just like I had no idea. But then I started like learning more about it. And there's so much benefit, as you're saying, to having a business, especially in the US, like for tax purposes and so many other things. Like there's so much that goes into it. So yeah, so I've learned the hard way. But yeah, as of 2023, I was like, okay, let me just separate everything.
It
And
makes such a difference.
it really does. And then there's the whole other aspects of like how do you like what's the best accounting system to use, and like how do you track all your invoices? Like it's just a headache. Like it's like really it's not fun setting up a business.
No, it's really not. And honestly, little shameful moment on my end for a second. I have been with Wells Fargo for my business banking since I think 2015 or 2016. I have wanted to switch to Chase, and I was like, you know what? I moved to Idaho in 2019 in the fall. I'm gonna switch to Chase. Then the pandemic happened.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, well, I'll switch after. Guess whose accounts are still with Wells Fargo, and it is 2023. So I know from experience what a pain it is. Um, and it's just something that you have to prioritize. And so I actually finally have a bank appointment for next week because I was done putting it off. So do as I say, not as I occasionally procrastinate.
You know what else I loved? So you were talking about how you were comparing financial health and fitness, and I
Mhm.
love that. If whoever's listening, they got to go and read that article that's on your blog, because I've done a similar thing with career and fitness. And when I read, I was like, this makes so much sense. And then you like find a financial, like you have a fitness buddy, find a financial buddy. I think that is so important because why are we so uncomfortable talking about money? Why can't, like, what I mean, having like a buddy, like, what is it? What is it with us as people, as society, that we don't feel comfortable talking about money?
Honestly, it's so interesting to me because I, of course, feel really comfortable talking about money.
Right.
And it's led to some really interesting conversations in our friend group or, with my family even. And that 'cause they're not as comfortable talking about like they're more comfortable than a lot of families were. But it's something where my knowledge has far exceeded my parents, which is really interesting, right? To have
Mhm.
this like, oh, I know more about retirement accounts than my parents do, or I
Mm,
know more about this. And so to be talking with them in their 50s and having the conversation, so many people don't want to look uneducated. And I think if we can
mm,
come at it from a place of, hey, we've been really left in the dust here with our overall financial wellness, because my cynical view is that people are able to profit off of you, corporations are able to profit off of you, the less knowledge you have, the less financial confidence you have. And I see it as an act of rebellion or an act of like taking your power back
mm,
to take these sometimes uncomfortable steps to have the conversations, to figure out what's normal, to talk about salaries in your friend group, to
mm,
talk about negotiating with a corporate job or what's normal, or finding out even that like you can negotiate benefits, you can negotiate paid time off. Like it's not just salary. There's so many things that you can be doing. And so I think being the brave one in your friend group, having the conversation, setting the tone of like, hey, I want to chat about this because it's something that I think we could all really benefit from. And embracing the discomfort, I think, that comes with that, because it gets so much more comfortable the more often that you're doing it and the more you're practicing it, just like anything else, right? It's not going to be perfect the first time you chat about it.
mm. I remember I used to, when I would be in conversations like this, like many years ago, and I would be like, what are they talking about? Like, what? And I would like write it down, that I Google it, or I'll Google it right then and
Mm-hmm.
there. Like, I was just, because I was afraid, to your point. Like, I'm just, because like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm the opposite of you. I'm the opposite of a math person. Okay. I'm the creative person. Like, that's where it's
Right.
at for me. And growing up in Russia, it's a very, it's just, we just don't think about it. Like, just if you look at the history of Russia, we're always under conflict. Like, we don't even think about tomorrow or savings, and it's not
Right.
something normal in that culture in general. And so there's a lot of cultural what's the word, conditioning, that went into how I think about money, and the fear around money, and like I don't deserve money, and there's so many things. And I think that's another thing that people struggle with. I mean, speaking about myself at least, but the the thoughts you have about money, the beliefs you have about money,
Yes.
right? It's so, I don't know if it's, if it's a cultural thing again, but I mean, I see this everywhere. Like this, I don't know what it is. It's just these emotions around money, that we're like afraid of money almost in a really weird way.
Right, all of these like limiting beliefs that come up, or
Yes.
scarcity beliefs, or mindset issues. And I think that I mean, not I think, I know, like, that's what we're putting out a new program right now because that's really near and dear to my heart, is the holistic view of money, right? Because like we can talk about the tactical and the strategic and the invest in retirement, review your budget, look at your numbers, do this. But if we're not addressing the junk or the
Mm-hmm.
baggage or the thoughts or what's going on behind the scenes, we need to be looking at finance holistically, right? Sure, we're looking at like manifesting and we're looking at practicing abundance and gratitude
Right.
and putting $25 a month into our retirement. Like, where can
Yeah.
we be looking at it from a holistic viewpoint? Because we all have our own limiting beliefs. One of mine for years and years and years that will occasionally still rear its ugly head is that work is a four-letter word, is something my dad used to always say, meaning like it's a cuss word, it's hard, it's negative, it's all of these things that like go along with that. And so for the longest time, work had to be hard, and as long as
Mm,
I believed that work had to be hard, work was hard. Now,
mm,
do I think that there are times that I actually hustle or work or all of these things? Yeah, there's absolutely times that are busy or seasonal, but in general, since I've decided that work doesn't have to be hard or painful or a slog, I love what I do 95% of the time, which is such a dramatic change from my early 20s when I made that belief true that work had to be hard.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think like the whole just mindset we have about work, about money needs to change. And I love it that you're share with us the program because it sounds interesting. Because again, it's like it's like with the gym, with anything that you're trying to change, like you got to start with yourself, like with the inner work, however fluff or whatever it may sound. But it really does come down to like what are you thinking about and what are the thoughts that are, because those are the things that are going to influence your decisions, behaviors, actions and all of that. And if you're not doing that, it's very difficult to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to do. Or you might accomplish, but my gut feeling is you won't accomplish as much as you could have if you would have not
Exactly.
have all that BS.
Instead of this, you're maybe this.
Yes,
And it's like if
exactly.
you would have done that behind the scenes work, you could be on such a better trajectory, a more aligned trajectory.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. What are you most excited for in the next 6 to 12 months of freelance CFO?
The program that we're putting out, honestly, so two things really. The program that we're putting out has been an absolute passion project. It's called Wealth Witches, and it's demystifying and like debunking a lot of the junk around finances. And like I said before, it's the tactical, it's the strategic, it's the holistic. We have an astrologer coming in. We
Yes,
have,
yes.
like we're really looking at this, and it's combining all of these multifaceted interests that I've kind of kept closeted for a long time. I'm showing up in the accounting realm with my professional hat or briefcase or whatever we want to call it.
Mm,
And I'm holding all of these sides of me back that have been so beneficial in my journey as a business owner, as a human being, as a spouse, as a sister, as all of these things. And so I've rebranded our podcast. Um, we're relaunching in October with the same name and with that group program because I'm so incredibly excited to bring that, as scary as it is and kind of taboo as it is, right? It's sex, it's money, it's magic and manifest. It's all of these things that come in that make us who we are, that help us on that trajectory, on our highest, path, timeline, whatever we want to call it. So that's one big thing. And then the other is that we're one hire away from having the absolute like dream accounting team that I could ever have. So we're making that next hire in the next 3 to 6 months, and we're going to be fully staffed, like fully efficient. Like we've done the behind the scenes work on the business, just like we do it
mhm,
on ourselves, where we finally have any of those holes filled. We have the overlap filled. Like we've gotten to the point where we have redundancies in place. So like someone can go out
mm,
on parental leave. And that is so exciting to me from a workflow standpoint and like a workplace, like healthy environment, because for a long time we were lean, 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 as we were
yeah.
growing, and we're still lean, but we have so much more support now and so many more resources. So both of
Yeah.
those I'm really excited for in the next 6 to 12 months.
That sounds exciting. And before I ask you my last question, where can people find all this information? Where do you typically hang out? Where they can connect with you?
Instagram, all over Instagram, and then TikTok. And they're two different handles. So we have the Freelance CFO and we also have Katelyn Magnuson. And those are the handles both for Instagram and for TikTok for their respective audiences. And then we also have our website, the freelancecfo.biz, and then my website, which is currently under construction, which is katelynmagnuson.com. And I show up a lot, as you've seen in doing some TikTok stalking.
Mm-hmm.
I show up a lot when it comes to like workplace environment, overall financial health, well-being. And then on the freelance CFO side, we're incorporating some more of that woo, but it's a lot of like practical, tangible advice that you can be implementing. So we're in all of the places on social media. We're not great on LinkedIn. That's my big goal for this next year, is to like delve into that. But yes, those are the best social channels for us.
Yeah, TikTok is on fire. It's very
Thank you.
relevant. It's very relevant. It's very just easy, and it's practical, and like you said, like the tips, and it's just easy to watch, and some this content and the videos. It's brilliant. So well done,
Thank
really,
you.
very relatable. So last question I have for you is, what is one question you wish people would ask themselves more often?
I alluded to it earlier, but the one question that I wish everyone would ask themselves is this actually what I want? Or is this what I've been conditioned or told that I should want?
Mm.
And being able to sit with that and unpack it, I think will lead you to so many better decisions. They might be scarier decisions, but such better decisions to, and I think we always try to think that we need to know everything for the next 5 or 10 years instead of going, if I want to get here, what's a step that I can take today that leads me that direction? So again, we're keeping it simple and we're keeping it bite-sized, right? But like, what do I actually want?
I love it. Well, Katelyn, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing some insights, and I'll make sure to share all the different
Thank
things in
you.
the show notes. And maybe we'll have you back again and to talk more about some other things you're going to be doing
I
next
would
year.
love that. There's so many fun topics to cover in the finance world, you know?
Absolutely.